Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we are talking about the 5 reasons-ish you should be starting the Mistborn series. Possibly there is a 5.A. I'll explain. I know there are listicles and people who talk about this everywhere, but that is because Sanderson is easy to read and highly enjoyable. Point number 1. If you are a completionist, like you don't like to read series that are ongoing, taking forever, or you're not sure if they'll ever be done because you need to know the answers, Sanderson is there for you, as this series will be wrapping up in November, at least for now. Who knows? Maybe in the future he could come back and write another era into this world. But for now, book number 4 of the Second Era trilogy is coming out in November and we'll be wrapping up this saga. Point number 2, kind of connected here. For me at least, I don't think you have to start with Era 1 Mistborn, which would be the final empire with Vin's life and everything that just is typically titled Mistborn on most of the new release covers. But after reading Era 2, you could totally start with Era 2 if you want to. It all depends on what type of story you are looking for, what characters you want, what you want their motivations to be. If you're looking for high fantasy, or if you want a more realistic almost style fantasy book that is more detective western style, the age of your characters you prefer, all of that, because Era 2, the storyline and what it talks about and how its interactions in the world stand alone on its own so well. Yes, it makes references to Era 1 books. That sounds error. It makes references to the original trilogy, and of course it talks about history and the magic references. It doesn't go into your magic as much of descriptions in Era 2. No, it doesn't. But it does show you how that works, and it explains it still into where you're going to understand. And it all depends on what type of story you're looking for, where I would recommend where you start. Because you could start, yes, this is a good crossover novel, YA, adult, anybody can start this. It's very easy, but this is going to be your epic high fantasy, world building, everything. Whereas LA of Law, it does not. It is much more in a different type of world. I mean, same world, obviously, of course, but where the world is at in this point and the storyline and what is happening to the characters is so different. So if you don't want the high fantasy vibe, if you're not sure if you could really dive into that, you can start with Era 2. And if you're curious enough about, all these things they're referencing, the history, the grand scale of what happened, that's all in Era 1. And you can go back. Though the style is completely different, so that might be a bit confusing / getting used to point if you liked this style and this is what you wanted. And like I said, the last book is coming out, so it's going to wrap up their story and hopefully answer those questions that I was just left with, like, oh my god. Point 3. So if you are new to fantasy, as I said, this is a really good starting point because it does give you that world building that you find in epic fantasy, but it is so immersive and it is so pieced out through it, like you are seeing through the characters' eyes, you are learning with them, and the way that it is done, it is just beautiful. The way he explains everything to you, and it's not just explain, tell details. You are learning with the character, you are seeing as she's getting things, and it has just so many different aspects going on here with the character development, with the world development, the magic system. It's just a very great entry point into fantasy if you haven't done that before. Or, as I said, another way to easy entry into fantasy could still be with Era 2, as it does have the different styles. It's not going to be your high fantasy, but it is easing you into it based off maybe different genres you've already read, because Wayne is a constable. He is a detective. He puzzles things out as he goes along to solve the cases that is happening in the book. And there is the magic system still. He's very reliant on his magic. I wouldn't say that it is a weakness though, because he is also a very happy gun user. So, and his magical allomantic ability lets him use the gun and the ability kind of simultaneously. So his ability just works really, really well for what he is. The next point would be about the world building, which is always my favorite parts of fantasy, of learning the histories of this world, which in Sanderson's it is always secrets uncovered through the world building, and in this, the way it is unraveled and the way you really learn about it with your characters and how different layers change the story as you see it, and it is just beautifully done. Oh my gosh, I love the world building. How it was done in this one, of course, had to be on a larger scale, but it was not overpowering. It was very immersive in the feeling of your learning about it. Whereas with Era 2, you already know the world if you've read the original trilogy at least, so it's not explained as much, but there is still new secrets to be uncovered in Era 2. And then this one's the world building, is the world is going through change as they are discovering technologies and they're growing, they're industrializing. So the world is really changing, and you are seeing that perspective of world building there, of how the new advancements change the world and the world around it, and how the people have to change, and politicalness, also politicalness, but different. Reason number 5 is such an interesting magic system. Like, this is definitely a hard magic system where you will have limitations placed on you and physical conditions that will happen to you for pushing your limitations. This magic system is based off of metals, but it's not just the metal that, because each metal is specific in the abilities that it grants, but it is a genetic thing. Like, you are born with the ability to use this metal. So you, unless you are very, very special, which is super duper rare in the first era, and gone completely, it's supposedly in the second era, to be an allomancer, which is what they're called, that can be able to use multiple metals. And the ones that can use multiple metals are called Mistborns, which is where the name comes from. And Mistborns can use all the metals and all of the abilities. In the first era, you were only told about 8 metals because those are the 8 basic metals. And then they slowly learned, though, to be able to use alloys of those metals and how combining gives different types of abilities and different aspects as well. So that was awesome. With the metal, though, the limitations are, of course, that you can only use the abilities so much as you are drawing from that metal, which you have to consume to draw from it. So your body is running its ability off of that metal. Like, you do exercise and you move around because you eat food. Well, they consume the metal and they can do their special abilities, but when the metal runs out, they can't do it anymore. And prolonged use of these will have impacts on the body. Of things will break down, your vision can break down, your stamina, you push your body past the point that it is supposed to be able to do something, and you will have to suffer consequences. There are still people who are going to be stronger in their abilities than others. You really see this more, I feel like, in second era, as one of our main characters is one of those people. There's also a secondary type of magic system involving metal, and it's also genetic because it is more of a racial ability. So it's very different, but you don't find out about it until you're actually reading the book. So I can't go into it that much if you've never read the book. This does come up way more in Era 2, though, because of events. So reasons to check it out, to uncover these secrets, of course. Okay, an asterisk reason of checking out the book is that either series you want to start, it involves so many different types of things. Like, you have found family in both of them. This one, though, really, actually, you could say both of them almost are coming of age. This one is a coming of age because one of your main characters is a 16-year-old girl as she is trying to find her place in the world and understand her abilities and what's happening and with the world. But this one could also almost be that, because even though you are dealing with a middle-aged grumpy man, he is trying to find where he belongs in the world, because everything he had thought he'd made his life for, and then things that changed and what he has to do and roles he has to take on now. And he has to fit that into his mental image of himself and where he's supposed to be in the world. So also a finding yourself type of novel. Both of them have the found family This one maybe more so, because this one, when you come into it, some of the groups are already together. Well, I suppose this one's they already knew each other, half of them. But it's a found family for Vin. Yeah, I don't have an Era 2 book to hold because I could not find a set of them that would be the same size and that would match, and so I was like, no. But either way, I hope that you guys will try to pick this up, either physical, ebook like I did these, audiobook, because the audio narration, of course, with the wonderful Kate Redding and Michael Kramer, always awesome. I hope that you guys will pick them up though, because this is a really, really lovely series. This book's, you have heist novel, you have corrupt government, the dark one is the leader of the world in this one, and oppressed people, cool magic. This one, you have detective novels, hidden histories coming to light again, finding yourself in a new age as the world is changing around you. It's just different points of time. However you want to start the series, I think either side is a great point to start with, because it is just, they're such good books. I want everyone to read them because they're so good. If you guys have read them already, let me know down in the comments if you loved them or hated them. We could talk about it either way. Or if you have any ideas or pitches of why you would recommend people start these, let me know so we can help more people join into the Mistborn. I hope you guys are finding something awesome to read today, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys!